Well, look at that one.
So welcome. My name is Jared Hammond, and I am the Worship Arts Chair here at East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Kirtland, Ohio. Thank you for joining us here today beneath the beacon and on Facebook Live. Whether you are a member or friend of our congregation, whether you join us every Sunday or only occasionally, whether we've known you for decades or you've met us for the first time here today, whether you are with us under the beacon or you join us from your own sacred space, you are welcome here. Acknowledging your skin color, ancestry, and expressions of gender, your net worth, political opinions, and the people you love, and the long and winding journey that brought you here this morning, you are welcome. May this be a time of reflection and renewal, a time to live into our mission to love, revere, discover, and connect.
It's an honor for this to be the first time I get to join you in worship on a Sunday morning. How exciting it is to be both here and virtual, and I welcome you. We have some words today for the lighting of our chalice. Bear with me just a moment while we get technology organized. Now, these words are by Reverend Gordon McKeeman. Let there be light. Let it shine in dark places, in moments of pain, in times of grief. In the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair. Wherever darkness is to be put to flight, let there be light. So come, friends, let us gather ourselves together in the light of our chalice, the light of mystery, the light of wonder, the light of hope, the light of peace. Let us explore that which has worth. Together, let us find that which has meaning in our lives. Together, let us worship.
Often, we find that light, that meaning, that worth in the sharing of our joys and concerns, the milestones of our lives, and the difficult burdens we bring with us on a Sunday morning. And sometimes, we put those milestones, or we put down those burdens in this book, which sits on a pedestal in the narthex for all of us to use. We have one this morning. JT is asking for positive thoughts, prayers, and strength sent to her granddaughter Ellie in Sweden, who is dealing with domestic issues. We know that there are many milestones and many concerns that weigh on all of us. And so for these spoken aloud and those kept unspoken in our hearts, I invite you to grab a stone, whether you brought one in with you this morning, or you grabbed one from the bowl, or if you'd like to grab one from the bowl right now, and to hold on to that stone. Whether that is merely a symbol of strength, or if you lay down your burdens with this stone, whatever it means to you, hold on to this stone for just a moment of silence. And then when the singing bowl sounds, I invite you to join in placing these stones at the bowl at the center of our sanctuary beneath our beacon to eventually be returned to the landscape around us and always be a part of this community.
This reading is called This Woman. It's a poem written by survivors of domestic abuse, and it's drawn from their experiences. The busy woman is running here and there and everywhere. Time for everyone and everything, especially the boss. the busy woman can think of is, don't let him get cross, don't let him get cross, don't let him get cross. The busy woman must make sure everything is perfect. It all must be a certain way. Don't let him get cross. And all must be at a certain time. The busy woman can't relax. She's forgot something. The children did something that he didn't like. She's all anxiety. The busy woman is never alone. She's at work with him, with the children, friends. The busy woman has forgotten who she is.
Let me tell you about the clever woman. The clever woman hides it well. The clever woman ain't got no story to tell. The clever woman stays with him so she can keep her children safe. The clever woman stays because she knows where he is. She doesn't like surprises or shocks. The clever woman manages his temper around Christmas, birthdays, and every special occasion. The clever woman smiles all the time, faking her way through her fake life.
Let me tell you about the strong woman. She wants to breathe, but she's constantly holding her breath. The strong woman carefully places her feet around the eggshells and avoids death. The strong woman laughs with him when friends ask about her clumsy nature, which makes those marks. The strong woman can't make plans. She just gets through every day, every painful day. She gets through the snacks and the grabs. The strong woman suffers 1,000 humiliations as she realizes she doesn't fit in her own life.
The awakened woman watches her eldest child treat her as the boss does and sees the younger children's fear. The awakened woman watches the knives line up, imagines more pain, and feels more darkness near. The awakened woman feels impending doom and sees how the game has changed. The stakes are high. The awakened woman went for a very long walk on a very cold day and remembered who she was. The awakened woman untangled the web of lies that is her life and started to think. The awakened woman makes decisions, plans and whispers, and she takes what she can.
Let me tell you about the free woman. She needs to be believed. She needs validation. She abhors judgment and a shake of the head. The free woman has 100 calls to make, many serious conversations to start. She must meet with authorities, and all she wants is to fall into bed. The free woman needs a home. She needs to put down roots and find new beginnings for her children. The free woman doesn't want to keep hearing the word alleged and doesn't want to be reminded of how to be a parent. The free woman gets a knock at the door, received a summons, and knows she's neither safe nor free.
The judged woman stands in the courtroom, trying to understand 100 quiet words because her fear is too loud. The judged woman stands alone. She listens to lies and gets angry and cross, while her abuser stands calm and proud. The judged woman begs and borrows, but it's not enough. She knows that she must fight for her children, but she must feed them first. The judged woman tells her story in its most graphic details, time and time again. She is asked for medical records and a peek into her soul. The judged woman is an outsider, constantly explaining herself, only allowed to say certain things, in need of a reassurance that never comes.
The doubting woman is hesitant to build new relationships and watches people differently. The doubting woman holds her children close and prays for their safety Like a sharpened knife, she is ready for danger. The doubting woman has her belongings slowly drip-fed back to her, memories making her sway with sickness. The doubting woman's head aches all the time with remembering and analyzing as the flashbacks flood her brain. The doubting woman longs for a peaceful sleep after a long day and hopes that the nightmares don't come.
Now let me tell you about this woman. She is the calm woman. She has been judged. She has been doubted. She has been awakened. Somebody hurt her very badly. Somebody lied to her, beat her, belittled her, bullied her, and then tried to take her children. The authorities pushed her, scolded her, and put her in dangerous positions and made her live very small. But she was strong, and she did the right things. She ticked boxes. She engaged. She presented well, and she remained calm. This woman is nobody's fool. She is stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more loving, grateful for all life's goodness, and finally free.
I have seen these helpers here at East Shore. Since 1982, when I discovered my sister was being severely abused by her husband, I have feared for her life and felt hopeless to help her. I read books, I read research articles, and in 1998 I was granted March of Dimes preceptorship at Texas Women's University on prevention of battering during pregnancy. That 3-day training in Texas led to an increased awareness of a system that denies the values of half of our population. If you punched your neighbor, you would go to jail. If you punched your wife, they would ask you to walk around the block. Domestic violence murders were not distinguished from other murders, therefore that we could not focus on trends. All of this made me angry. You're probably surprised, which produced much energy. In '91, in Minnesota, a group of women, artists and writers, were offended by the increasing number of Minnesota women being murdered by their intimate partners. The Silent Witness National Institute said, quote, they created wooden silhouettes to commemorate the lives of 26 women who had been lost that year. They called them the Silent Witnesses. In '93, I read an article about this group of women carrying their figures to the state capitol and demanding that the state pass laws to protect women. So I joined East Shore in 1994, and early in '95, I approached the board with the idea to produce these wooden figures of women murdered by their partners in Lake County. It was passed unanimously. September of '95, East Shore, in cooperation with Forbes House, produced 10 Silent Witness figures in the basement of the old church at Greystone. Lieutenant Tom Doyle was asked to compile a list of names of women murdered by their male intimates, because that was not public knowledge, in Lake County, and a little information on the circumstances of their deaths. Church members, shelter volunteers, and staff were asked to donate their time to produce the figures. They all met in the basement, and sawdust started to fill the room. Lorna Kramer did most of the cutting of the figures. The room was filled with sounds, and smells, and laughter as they were sawing and sanding and painting and priming. Then the stands were produced and attached. Dave Simmerer, an artist in our membership, produced and painted the shields. We all felt some sense of purpose as we worked hard together for them to be ready for the unveiling on October 1st. Right after church, the congregation and community members gathered in the front lawn of East Shore along I-90 to honor the women killed by their intimate partners. Ohio Senator Boggs and Reverend Bruce Clary and Kathleen Ulrich of the Junior League and myself spoke about the effects of silence surrounding domestic violence. In '95, they were displayed at Lakeland Community College, and they went to the Girl Scout Conference in Clarion Hotel in Eastlake. In '97, thanks to BJ and Dan and Libby Bond, the East Shore UU Church was represented in a march on Washington, D.C. October 18, 1997, a national event with 1,500 figures and 2,000 men and women, and children attended. BJ and Dan securely wrapped 2 figures and air freighted them to Washington. And Libby wrote a little article that I won't share today, but she wrote what she felt about that day. Senator Paul Wellstone of Minnesota opened and was an MC for that event. Senator Wellstone said of the witnesses, art makes the invisible visible. Laura Katzett shared her story of being attacked by her husband and having her face cut up, which required 17 stitches. As she lay on the gurney in the emergency room thinking to herself, what did I do to deserve this? An attending nurse nurse, say that, opened her eyes. She knew she had to leave the marriage and save herself and her child. Additionally, a figure from California, Nicole Brown Simpson, stood with others in an ironic symbol of the difficulties that we sometimes have with our judicial system over spousal abuse. An abuser also spoke. He really affected me. And he said, alcohol does not cause someone to be violent. People cause the violent. He told how he had gotten treatment for his violent behavior. He said, I am not the man I could be, but I am better than the man I was. In 2002, we found 2 of our figures were deliberately damaged by using bats on their head. We just went to work, and as a team, we reproduced them. On February 15, 2003, East Shore offered the Vagina Monologues to benefit 3 battered women's shelter. Over 40 East Shore members volunteered to accommodate the over 300 people that attended. This empowering production of Eve Ensler's donated play. They collected over $7,000 for Forbes House, Women Safe, and Home Safe. That is the power belonging to East Shore. We can accomplish so much more as a team than anyone could alone. That is what I found here at East Shore. And doing the Vagina Monologues, remodeling the 3 rooms at transitional housing as part of our making an impact on domestic violence. I alone could not have done any of those things without you guys. When things look scary, look for the helpers. Today we have laws to protect women. The healthcare system assesses for abuse in every admission. Some communities have mandatory arrest in probable cases of domestic abuse. In 2006, we presented a play here that was directed by Roger Dixon. In 2008, 2013, and 2015, the News Herald had articles describing the silent witnesses. In 2014, the whole family of Nicole Devine attended the ceremony of the unveiling. 2018, East Shore and the Women's Center offered a program on domestic violence at Lakeland Community College. Gloria Lane, the director of Women's Center, was also interviewed by TV about the project. And I think stories really are much more impactful. I noticed a thin man with sad eyes out front, wearing a plaid shirt and jeans, about 50. He was standing alone, and Sandy Allgood talked to him and brought him over to introduce him. In 1966, at the age of 13, living in Willoughby, he watched as his father killed his mother. His father consequently spent 14 months in jail for murder of his mother and his childhood. He said he wanted to help with this project. Following our program another time, people had left, and I noticed a small, attractive woman clutching a long stem yellow rose, reading the shields on the figures. Tears were streaming down her pained face. I walked up to her and said, "Can I help you?" When she was able to speak, she pointed toward the figure that said Tina Rice and uttered, "That is my daughter." I hugged her and said, "I'm so sorry." I said that I had written to her sister asking if she would like to attend or speak or whatever, and she said, "Well, my mother still has your letters." She spoke through sobs and a little about that day on November 4th, 2004, when her son-in-law broke into her house where her daughter was hiding, stabbed her daughter, then left looking for the sister and stabbed the sister and her husband. And then he left and stabbed himself, and the 3 children now live with her. As a follow-up, my sister is doing well. She did leave her husband finally in 1989, obtained a GED, and got a job and stayed there for 25 years. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by by the bad people, but the silenced by the good people, by Martin Luther King. He sure has not been silent. I hope that you will help Jerry Green in this important project, and please stay after to help carry them.
If ever there was a history to be proud of, that history of activism is certainly one to be proud of. So in our anthem today, we heard the words of lyricist Barbara Zanotti. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. We'll build a promised land that can be. The hymn goes on to invite us to come build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God can create peace, where justice will roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Let us take a moment to let these words wash over us. Now, this is one of our most beloved UU hymns, and many of you may know it by heart. Barbara Zanotti adapted these words from 2 books of the Hebrew Bible, also known as the Old Testament. And Zanotti used the book of Isaiah as her primary source for the hymn, and I think this detail is very fitting for my sermon today. Isaiah is one of the most prolific prophets in the Hebrew Bible, and much of his prophecy shows up again in various forms in the New Testament. Now, the historical record of Isaiah is a little murky, but there are 2 important things to note. First, Isaiah was an Israelite prophet who lived from the mid-8th century to the early 7th century BCE, which is about 700 years before the birth of Jesus. At this moment in ancient history, the northern kingdom of Israel was toppled by the Babylonians, and the various tribes of Israel were cast out into exile. Isaiah's prophecies were primarily concerned with resistance and reunification. The Hebrew God showed Isaiah a pathway to freedom from the oppression of the Babylonians. This message of freedom and justice resonates with us and Barbara Zanotti to this day. Resistance. Reunification. The second thing to know is that ancient prophecies are cyclical in nature. When God revealed a prophecy to someone, the concept of linear time was not part of the deal. The prophet saw the past, the present, and the future simultaneously the way that God would. What happened once what happened once in a prophecy could happen multiple times in multiple contexts. So when the ancients were looking for their coming Messiah, they remembered, oh hey, there's this Isaiah guy. And his prophecies also lined up perfectly with the coming of Jesus. So hence, the ideas of Isaiah from the Hebrew Bible, or the Old Testament, show up all over the New Testament. So prophetically, Isaiah is a very heavy hitter. And being chosen as a prophet was no cakewalk. Imagine being struck with a prophetic vision. For a moment, you know what the universe knows. You're given a vision so simultaneously glorious and horrifying that you spend the next few months wandering and sharing the story with anyone who will listen. And because the prophets were often telling folks exactly what they didn't want to hear, the reception was tepid at best. I'm going to say that one again, because they were telling people exactly what they didn't want to hear. I'm sure that resonates with some people here in the room today. So prophecy, it isn't an idea, it isn't an opinion. It isn't a thought experiment or an academic idea. Prophecy is a truth discovered. A truth so profound and so on point that it moves your very soul. It changes you at the core. So we learn in our Unitarian Universalist tradition this concept that revelation is not sealed. So the great truths of the cosmos are still ours to discover. And because of this, each one of us, each one of you, is a potential prophet. When we modern UUs talk about prophetic voice, we are digging back into our history, way back into our Judeo-Christian roots, and for good reason. The world is still broken. In so many ways, we need answers to our most troubling questions. We yearn for guidance in our suffering. And so we write hymns, and we sing, and we call upon the words of Isaiah to inspire our justice work, to strengthen our call to action. Friends, in our world today, there is much to sing about. And when I say sing, I mean the kind of singing we see in the Hebrew Scriptures, where the divinely inspired clamor of trumpets and shouting can topple city walls. That kind of singing. That's what we talk about when we talk about prophetic voice. To have prophetic voice is both a beautiful gift and a heavy burden. Once we see the world as it could be, once our minds are expanded and we catch a glimpse of a better life for ourselves, a better life for our beloveds, it becomes our duty to share that vision. It becomes our duty to inspire that vision into being. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of hard work. So what might a modern prophet sing about? We know the problems. We can see the vision for the future. A future free of toxic hatred. A future free of abuse and violence. Because we see it, every single one of us should be called to action, and many of us are. And that gives me so much hope. To see the work that is being done in the world, the blood, sweat, tears, creativity, sawdust, that gives me hope. Now, if you're like me, all this learning, all this awareness, all this prophecy gets you a little bit fired up. We will indeed build a land where we will bind up the broken. We will indeed build a land where captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Yes, we will build this land that can be. So you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, Joe, great words. But how are we going to do this? Well, I'm going to tell you. We can lift up our prophetic voice in three ways. We can become an ally. We can speak out as an advocate or accomplice. And we can stir up good trouble. Now, each of these stages builds upon the one that comes before it. So let's start with allyship. Allyship is the most familiar to us. Allies are by definition outside the group being affected by the systemic oppression or abuse. Now, activist Dr. Tiffany Jana describes allyship as the, quote, thinking and learning stage. Allies believe in equal rights for all, and this usually stems from their special awareness of the need for equal rights for a particular group of people. At this level of support, we begin to align ourselves with the issue in small ways. Another activist, Jana Ledbetter, reminds us that, quote, being an ally requires no special training or degree. There's no classroom or clinical requirement. It doesn't have to be a full-time job. Now, I believe that relationships are at the root of good allyship. Many of us first become allies because someone we care about falls into an oppressed, abused, or marginalized group. We heard that today in our reflection. We love these people. We want them to be happy, fulfilled, and free, and yet we can see where the forces of oppression deny them those fundamental gifts. Now, sometimes, though, we find ourselves called into allyship due to larger cultural awareness. We may not be in a personal relationship with anyone suffering the oppression we seek to end. Allies often move through the world with more privilege than those affected by the injustice that we seek to remedy. And as we know, privilege comes with responsibility. We need to get it right. So we can strengthen our allyship. Again, Ledbetter suggests the following. First, pay attention. Do your homework. Start educating yourself. Second, seek full understanding. Exercise humility. Be comfortable saying, I don't know all of the details yet, but I want to learn. Ask questions. Admit that you may be carrying some built-in biases. Third, fact check. Use multiple sources. Go to the experts. Compare information. Go to the actual source. Check your learning against the lived experiences of those who are marginalized. And fourth, make your support known. Let your beloveds know that they have an ally. If you do nothing else, come alongside the person you seek to help and let them know that you're there. So allyship is great. It is vital and it is holy work. But what's next? Now, depending on who you follow, you may hear more advanced justice workers referred to as either advocates or accomplices. Now, this difference is rooted in two different philosophies of justice work. Either the model where reform can come from within the system, or a model that's more along the lines of let's blow up the system, or act up style, be gay, do crimes kind of model. They both have merits. Now, Dr. Jana uses the term accomplice and describes this phase as the reactive response. I'm going to quote her here. Accomplices actively work to dismantle systems of oppression. Accomplices flip the dynamic and use what they've learned and whatever access they have to help course correct systemic bias. In the other camp, Ledbetter uses the term advocate. Now, the definition of an advocate is one who pleads the case of another. Specifically, one who pleads the case of another in a judicial court, right? So we can see Ledbetter's philosophy is to work within the system to create reform. So building on those skills that we already have as allies, she suggests we go 2 steps further. Choose your words carefully. Read the room. Choose your battles carefully. Use your words in a way that will affect change. Keep the marginalized in the center of your argument. Advocacy is not about winning arguments, shaming culprits, or demonstrating our moral superiority. As advocates, we are quite literally using our privilege to fight for the lives of other humans. We must act responsibly. Second, again, use your voice. When the moment arises, talk about what you've learned. Engage others, and most definitely, gently correct misinformation and disinformation. So while allyship is personal and requires us to be in relationship with the oppressed or marginalized people, accomplices and advocates expand that energy, that helping energy, outward. Now, for some of you, this is all old hat. You may be more advanced social justice warriors, and I offer you this bonus step. Beloveds, push yourself further. Move beyond ally, beyond advocate or accomplice, and strive to be a co-conspirator in the fight. Make that good trouble. Co-conspiracy. Sounds kind of scary. And it should be. It is the deepest level of justice work. Activist Alicia Garza says it best. I'm going to quote her here. She says, co-conspiracy is about what we can do in action, not just in language. End quote. Co-conspiracy asks us to do some really deep inside work and move through our guilt and shame, recognizing that we didn't create these systems of oppression, but also recognizing that we have the power and privilege to transform them, and the understanding that we should. Now, Dr. Janet calls this the proactive phase. Co-conspirators work closely alongside and within the communities they support. Co-conspirators strive to create deeper, more meaningful relationships. There's that thing again, that relationship that's important to this work. They create more meaningful relationships with the people they seek to help. But she gives us a caution. Co-conspirators do not co-opt the cause. This is a direct quote. Instead, they respect the work already being done by leaders in justice spaces and offer meaningful support. Co-conspirators are not trying to be saviors and do not fancy themselves superior to the people they work alongside. Co-conspirators ask how they can show up for people already doing the work, and they leverage their privilege in service of freedoms that they already enjoy. She continues, I believe what separates co-conspirators from allies is the willingness to put yourself on the line, whether it's assets, reputation, time, connections, or other resources. Co-conspirators always have skin in the game. End quote. Now, civil rights leader and U.S. House Representative John Lewis used the term good trouble to describe this deep level of engagement with justice work. Prophetic in his own right, his idea of good trouble also extends the words of his mentor and friend, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In June of 2018, John Lewis wrote, quote, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Lewis was calling back to statements he had made a couple years earlier in a commencement address when he said, again quoting, "You must find a way to get in the way. To get in good trouble, necessary trouble. You have a moral obligation, a mission, and a mandate. When you leave here, go out and seek justice for all. You can do it. You must do it." End quote. So the story goes that when U.S. Representative John Lewis was a child in Alabama, he was confused by the South's Jim Crow's laws, segregated restrooms, water fountains, and movie theaters. He wanted to know why segregation existed. And as an African-American boy in the South, his mother lovingly discouraged him, and she said, "Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble." But Lewis reminds us, I was inspired to get in trouble. I was inspired to get in the way. For Lewis, activism and social change is everyone's responsibility. He believed that people coming together to mentor, protest, learn, could create a better world. A world Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called the beloved community. So there you have it. From the stirring of revelations in one's heart to leading vast social movements of change. From the prophet Isaiah 2,800 years ago to our contemporary, the late John Lewis. Prophecy is alive and well. And it is alive and well in you. If we are to truly respect the interdependent web of all existence, we must be prepared to take the good with the bad. Joy somewhere is joy everywhere. Pain somewhere is pain everywhere. If one group is tormented, those vibrations on the strands that link your heart to theirs should vibrate just as alarmingly. Friends, I implore each and every one of you to move from the sidelines into action. Or if you are already engaged in the work, move from ally to accomplice or advocate. Or from accomplice and advocate to co-conspirator. Get in, get deep, get dirty with it. Make their fight your fight. Get into some good trouble. Necessary trouble. May it be so. Amen.
What do you think, modern prophets? You want to stir up some good trouble? There's a lot of ways we can do that. And one of the small ways that we try to do that just a little bit to show that we're allies is to use the privilege that we have. Sometimes that's the time that we dedicate to projects like this and making sure that we're putting them up by the road where they can't be ignored. Sometimes it's the privilege that we have in our wallet, in our purse. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do today. To get uncomfortable and share a little bit of your extra financial resources as we pass around the basket. Half of that's for us, but half of it this month will go to Black Lives Matter Lake County. And this is the last Sunday of this month, so if you want to get some of that in, that would be a good way to be an ally to that organization. However, if you are a guest here today, please let that basket pass you as our guest. We'll invite you to get in some good trouble with us, but first, we want to invite you into the community.
Thank you.
is good and it is necessary to do this. But nonetheless, thank you. Because if it was easy to do, everyone would be doing it. Thank you for the gifts that you give to East Shore in your time and your efforts and in your financial contributions. And please know that the board will use them responsibly and to be allies and advocates for our community. Before our bond of union here. So after worship today, we will set up the silent witnesses. So as soon as we're done in here, if you can stay and help and bring the silhouettes from the house next door out to the front, we'll get them all set up and ready to go for next month. As well, there is a faith development meeting at 1 o'clock after worship today. Tuesday, there is a Circle of Mom on Zoom, and that is at 6:30. Wednesday, the prayer circle, as always, starts at 6:15 on Facebook Live. This next Saturday will be an all-church cleanup from 8 a.m. to noon, so if there's anything you can do to help out here on the grounds inside of the church, please do join us for that. Next Sunday is the first Sunday of the month, so please remember to bring in any food that you have to share with the food bank, another way of being allies to our less fortunate neighbors here in the community. Next Sunday there is also an Our Sisters Keepers meeting at 2:30. That'll be on Zoom. And then looking a little ways out, that following Sunday, after the service, will be the Great Calendar event. So anything you need on the calendar for any groups, small groups, and events that you're a part of, please make sure to be a part of that so that it all gets on the calendar. Last thing, want to make sure everybody remembers, when we do go out, I'm told that there is a red coffee can that is over top of a wasp's nest. It's a problem that's being taken care of, so just stay clear of it, because that's not good trouble. That's not good. So,
all the wasps weren't here.
What's up?
That's all the wasps weren't here.
Oh, that's a good point. So, we're gonna do our bond of union, and then there's a little something after that. So don't run away too quickly. But please rise as you are willing and able, and join hands if you're next to someone you feel comfortable joining hands with, and we will recite our bond of union. We join hands
in the Unitarian Universalist fellowship, pledging ourselves to an individual religious freedom which transcends all creeds, not to think alike, but to journey together.
So friends, we have a little adjustment to the order of service. And as you're going to learn as we move through this year with 3 different ministers, that there are a plethora of ways to do things. And in my training, I was trained never to light the chalice without extinguishing the chalice. Because the lighting and extinguishing the chalice is the container in which our worship service exists. And so I like to take a moment at the end of each service to reflect on what we did here today, internally. Just as we extinguish the light of our chalice, the light does not extinguish in us. Carry it with you out into the world today. Take what moved you in here and illuminate the world with it out there. Oh, can't blow anything out. Go in peace.
Bye, internet friends.